Okay, Catherine.
Hi.
Nostalgia Noise is so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Gosh, just for everyone that's not aware of how amazing of a curator you are and how, yeah, our art director, art experience, just introduce yourself.
Okay, well that's sweet of you, thank you. My name is Katherine Stevens and I have lived in Dallas now about 2.5 years, and I have a full-time job working for an art advisory and art travel firm, fully remote, which is really lovely. They're Massachusetts based, and then on the side I curate art shows and manage the artist residency at Le Soul. And Le Soul is a boutique private members club in the Bishop Arts Kessler neighborhood area of Dallas. And I had a larger role there for about 2.5 years, and then recently am now just kind of the art curator for the space. But I was able to kind of be there from the start, helping establish Le Soul, which was such a treat. But yeah.
Hey, nice. In my little internet stalk of you, so sorry, I noticed that you've been working in heavy museum spaces since 2014-ish almost, or something like that. That's 10 years. That's huge. What kind of made you take that turn? Yeah.
It's interesting to reach a point in your life where you're like, oh wow, I've been been doing this for a decade, which is kind of amazing. But yes, so I really, after college, I was an English major, journalism minor. So I actually thought I was going to go a very different route after college, but I actually, my senior year of college, ended up doing an internship at an art museum. And that was kind of the beginning of this journey for me, thinking about working in the museum world, and specifically in the curatorial departments of museums. And through then kind of a few years of education, I ended up getting my master's in art history and then a certificate in museum studies. I started to then work in the museum world and had some incredible experiences, both in Houston, where I went to grad school, and then I ended up moving to Marfa, Texas, and worked at the Judd Foundation in Marfa, and then Fort Worth at the Kimball Art Museum. And the museum world is such a special place and one that I will always love, but I also, which is why you pursue any experiences in work and life, is you learn through them, is this for me or is it not for me? And I had thought for so long that was the route. And then I kind of just learned basically this, if I wanted to reach a certain point as a curator in the museum world, I would need to get my PhD. And I was working in this space, realizing even though I love academia and I love continuing to learn, and I strongly considered it, I decided that was not the route. And then I kind of just reached the end of my growth point at the Kimball, and there was nowhere really further for me to go in working in the curatorial department. I was assisting all of the curators and absolutely loved it, learned a lot, but kind of realized okay, this is kind of it, especially if I don't want to pursue a PhD right now. And the Kimball Art Museum is granted an old master's ancient art collection. It's not modern, it's not contemporary. And there is room in modern and contemporary art spaces to curate without a PhD, but I just needed a break in general. And so I took a break and I quit my job without a plan, which wouldn't always recommend for people, but sometimes if that is what it takes to
you gotta do it. Fortune favors the brave.
Figure it out, then you do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you've just left the Kimball Museum.
Yes.
You know that you like curation spaces. You know that you like that role, but you don't actually have that plan. Talk to me about how you got to Le Soul House, or how you even got to the full-time gig at Artful.
It really, I'm so grateful. I think everything kind of just did happen how it was supposed to. But when I left the Kimball, I had already become friends with the founder of Le Soul, Taylor, and she and I just kind of had talked over the year I was still at the Kimball before I started at La Soul. She and I were just kind of like having conversations. I was sharing things that I was passionate about with her. And one of my biggest passions, especially when it comes to curating in the art world, is where and how experiences can be created that help just connect people to art. Like these experiences from curating a show to community events, which Nostalgia and Noise does so well. How and where can people just have these touch points with the visual arts, and see and learn through that how it can impact their life and change their life sometimes. And I believe art is very powerful and we need art in the world. And those were just conversations I was having with her. And then I left my job and she kind of just called me and was like, hey, La Soul is starting to kind of grow. She established it out of her home with a major like wellness focus. So we have wellness studios at La Soul. There's like a cafe in the kitchen. She had gotten chickens. Like it was just a very, again, like community space. And now it has grown so much, which is exciting. So I just kind of came on board. I commuted from Fort Worth for about half a year and then decided to move to Dallas. And I started helping with events, programming. I helped brainstorm and kind of launch the membership component. We realized for kind of the sustainability of La Soul and the concept, memberships are kind of where it needed to head. And it did work really well, thank goodness. And then I began kind of thinking about, okay, what could like art programming look like here? This is what I am really passionate about. And she was always open to like any ideas I had. And so February 2023, I curated the first kind of large art show at La Soul House. And it was with this artist, Ruben Burgess Jr., who had lived in Dallas for years and then had moved to New York full time. He works for Bretta, which I think everyone's familiar with, Bretta watches, yep. And I'd followed him for a while. We had mutual friends, was obsessed with his work, still am. He's incredibly talented and the nicest person ever. And we invited him down to have this show at La Soul, and he's still very connected in the Dallas community. So he and I had a blast, like hanging everything. He brought all this just like piles of works on paper, like raw canvas, and we just hung it all over the house. And again, it's a house, you know, we're not in a like white wall gallery space. We had to work around the parameters of a house, you know, so the windows, different colored walls, like, yes. And I could tell initially, and he was like a little like thrown off by it at first. He was kind of like, okay, how is this like, you know, gonna work? So we even like hung stuff above windows. We just really kind of played around with it. And it was so fun. The show was really successful. A lot of people in the community came out. We had an artist talk with the show, and that is something I have made a stipulation of any show we have at La Soul. There has to be an artist talk.
There has to be an artist talk.
It has to be down for that.
Oh my gosh, there has to be
Yes.
an artist talk.
There has
Absolutely.
to. Yeah.
What's one of the reasons that you're really hammering that in? You're like, guys, we need to have him talk.
I mean, practically for the artist, and I think this is another thing I'm personally very passionate about now that I have gotten more experience with emerging artists and artists who are working on establishing themselves in their career. Often, and it's okay but often they are not as inclined towards like the business side of what they do and the actual like components of what it means to sell your artwork, promote your artwork, talk about your artwork. And those components are vital to potential collectors wanting to like buy your work, just practically. And then also just that conversation with the artist and people being able to just sit there and absorb and learn about their practice, what they care about, what are they inspired by, why do they do what they do as an artist, is again that connection point makes then their work more accessible to the just average person. Like you don't need to know anything about art. Like this is just your opportunity to hear from an artist You don't need to know art history. You don't need to know anything. Like, this is that initial point of contact with like a living artist. The artist talk started with the art shows, and then now they have, they're a component too of the artist residency, which we started last April, and very excited. That I'm very proud of the artist residency because it is one of the only ones in DFW, which is a big deal, and also really surprised me that there aren't more residency opportunities in DFW for artists to kind of apply for. And it is interesting. And there's an amazing residency in Corsicana, which is really interesting, and it's been around quite a while. But you know, it takes the space, right? Like, it takes there being kind of this pre-established place for the space and that opportunity to happen. But it's interesting. I don't know. And I still am kind of curious to kind of see where and how kind of Dallas and Fort Worth kind of evolve with that. But the residency, I will tell now the artists, we've only had 2 artists so far, and I've learned like, okay, like 3 months is a good time chunk to like work with them, and like what programming can we do during the residency that engages the community. Ideally now, every residency will end with an art show of work that the artist has ideally created during the residency. That wasn't the case with what we did for Kyle's show. Kyle Steed, our first artist in residence, his was kind of a mixture of works he'd already had over the last year created, and then some during the residency. So we kind of were learning and like getting our footing as we go, which has been really fun. But the talks have been like the most rewarding probably aspect of the residency and the art shows, because they're intimate, but yet, I mean, I've done a couple of them. Like with Kyle, we did 2, and a lot of people came out for both of them, and it's a mixture of like our members, and then it's open to the community. I have wanted to make sure, with La Soul being a member space, that all of the art programming is always open to the community. Like, anybody can come, not just our members. So that was very important to me. And then the artist talks being, again, this touch point to make the artist and their art more accessible to people, and encourage collecting, and encouraging people to be like, okay, now I know this artist on a deeper level. I've heard them speak in this way and be more vulnerable about their practice and their work. And now I feel this emotional connection to their work. And now I want it to be in my home with me. And that on top of being able to curate art shows in actual homes is like, again, I think where, when I look back 10 years to now, like where I always, I think, wanted to head in curating, outside of like the museum space that is an important space and has important meaning and purpose in culture, but can also, yeah, it serves a different function. They can be intimidating spaces. They are not sometimes the easiest for, I think, especially younger people to come in and engage.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's where I think, from what you all do to hopefully what we do at La Soul, these community, like intimate, warm, accessible community opportunities to engage with art in a way, and with an artist in a way that I think really encourages, again, this like investment. It doesn't have to be financial investment. Like, you don't have to leave there feeling like obliged to then go collect their work, but hopefully encouraging younger collectors to start, like, whatever your budget, your price point, like starting to kind of set aside money to be like, I want to
own some of this.
Own art. I want to support artists, and I want to start building a collection. Yeah.
Credit. I was peeking at you guys' website and what's available for sale.
Yes.
And that's a range. Like, I feel like that does kind of encourage like newer collectors.
Yeah.
Or even people that have like maybe the deeper pocketbooks, like everybody.
Yes.
There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
So accessibility, I think, is something that I'm seeing.
Good.
It's very big for you. I really, really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. And I said it earlier, but like, it is I feel like with art and in the art world, I feel like that is kind of my shtick and what I like care about the most. And I think with the art on consignment in this space, that's been another fun project to work on, because that is an opportunity for us to bring in and work with artists in the city who have their work up in this space for a period of time for sale. And that's been like fun and a learning process, and seeing again, and a big learning process, seeing, okay, what is like a good price range to have? What do people feel comfortable with? Like knowing our audience, knowing kind of the community that does come out, and our members, from members to anybody in the community. So yeah, I think it'll be fun to see it continue to evolve. Yeah.
And as far as like the art talks and the artist talks, are you kind of facilitating those? Like what? Oh,
Yes, I'm the moderator. I guess that's the word. Yes, and that's been so fun because I mean, just like this, I tell the artist, like, because some of the artists I've done this with are like, ooh, a little, I mean, we learn, artists, there's this balance. Sometimes they don't want to give too much away, right? And I appreciate and respect that too, because there's that fine balance of like, it's here. I want people to, exactly, like this is it. I want people to come to it without hearing my perspective and form their own. And I love and appreciate that. And there's a place for that. But then there's also, so you can have both, but then also I want the artist to share more about their perspective because of these like practical components of letting people get to know them more and why they want to collect their work. But the artist talks, it's been fun, and it's something I did get experience in the museum world, and had the opportunity to kind of work on my public speaking and work on kind of these interview moderating skills. But I love it, and I always like this. I just want it to feel like a very natural conversation. And I bring in, I want people to ask questions. I want people to engage, like they can interrupt. They can, I want it to feel almost like a roundtable discussion, and not, again, this barrier, right? Like there's this distance. I want it to feel intimate and accessible still too. And the artists have like really enjoyed it. And it's been fun actually seeing, I think, them be surprised sometimes at what they're even saying, like that they have this opportunity to think through and talk about their work in maybe a way they never have been forced to before.
Because the communication for them is so visual, and they're like immediately going there, and to kind of like be able to step in and be like, all right, let's like think through it with everybody. Like I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's important to also, I think, for artists to continue throughout their career verbalizing what they're doing and putting words to what they're creating and how they're doing it. I think is important for their own practice.
Right, and they know like what their philosophies are and like when they're creating these spaces. Okay, that's interesting. I think I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit how you're picking these artists for the artist residencies, or how you even know how La Soul aligns with some of the people that are coming in.
Yeah, great question. That it has so far been very organic, which I'm really grateful for. I think, as we continue to do it, it will turn into a little bit more maybe of a potentially like an application process and review process. It has not been that yet. It has happened very organically. Kyle Steed was our first artist in resident, and he and I had gotten to know each other through the community. I knew he was in this limbo period of moving out of one studio, moving into a different house. He was just in a limbo period in general. So the timing worked out really well. And then for us, like what a treat to have an artist who is pretty established in Dallas already and has a more established career. Like I wouldn't consider, Kyle does not fall into the category of like emerging artist anymore. No, like he is established. So to have him be our first artist in resident was just like, amazing.
I think one of the things that interested me about him was like his focus on like holistic healing modalities. And I was like, what is this? And then kind of seeing that, and then Kirsten, Okay, Kristen, she has like a lot of focus on like landscapes and very like serene, tranquil vibe there. Is that kind of how you see Le Soul's wellness going in with some of those artists? Or like, I'm trying to like get a feel for how those philosophies are intersecting a little bit.
I love that question. That's very interesting. I feel like Kristen herself, well, you know what I've loved learning about both of them is both Kyle and Kristen have their own like established wellness practice in their life. Kyle, which I know he spoke about, you know, from meditation to yoga. Kristen's a yogi. So they both in general, I think, were drawn to even the wellness components we offer at Le Soul. And they have both realized those are essential to their artistic practice, that balance of, those spaces for their own well-being. So that's actually been very interesting to see. And our next artist in resident, Zarina Karapetyan, which she's amazing. She, I think similarly has, and I think there's this interest in care for those things, for that wellness aspect in general. And so that's kind of, I guess again though, it has been very organic to see like, those weren't necessarily things I knew about them ahead of time, going into then kind of inviting them to be a resident. But so then there's been that organic nature of like, when they're a resident, they have all the membership benefits. So they're able to also partake in those parts of Le Soul and go to the classes and enjoy like the pool and the different things that we offer that I think at Le Soul, and then what we as a team care about, but is this like holistic well-being. And I think also how we're able to give that to the community of like, this is holistic well-being includes art making, looking at art, talks, dialogue, thinking, enjoying the pool, like going to a sound bath, you know, all of those, enjoying a good meal and conversations over a meal, you know, all of those experiences go together. And I think hopefully encourage again, that just like anybody to engage in that kind of holistic well-being and well-rounded well-being. So it's kind of,
Figuring out all of these things to like add into what counts as the holistic is very cool.
And it's what you all do too. I mean, I think it's what, you know, you can have kind of your focus for different events and community, but I think ultimately they all feed into kind of, I don't know, just being well-rounded humans who care about, you know, the arts and culture and well-being. Yeah.
Okay, we talked about future residencies. I don't want to like give too much of the swag away. I just kind of want to know more of what the future looks like for you. And, like, whether you have any fun trips with Artful planning or coming up. Or...
I'm excited, I think now for the residency and art programming at Le Soul. I feel like again, over the last year, we've kind of like gotten our footing. And like I was telling you earlier, you experiment, right? And you see what works and you see what doesn't work. And that's imperative, right? And I feel like we've like gotten our footing now, and I'm kind of like, okay, I feel like this is the rhythm. I do feel like I have the rest of the artists planned out for the rest of the year, which is exciting and a great place to be. And I think for next year, I think I'm gonna bring in the application process component, and we'll just see how that goes. And then, so I'm excited about that. And then the art shows that will kind of be corresponding to that. And then with Artful, I just got back recently from a couple of longer trips, which was really fun. And so I'm now kind of taking a little pause, and then we'll have quite a few trips this fall, which is exciting, potentially to Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I know, so very exciting. And then the advisory kind of happens along with it all. And that kind of will just look different with art fairs we may need to go to, or clients we need to go help with install in their homes for art. So that kind of will look different throughout the year. But I'm excited to just this year will look, I think, very different for me personally, just with my work. And it's just, I'm excited to kind of see what how it will unfold, and like just the different rhythm that my life will look like. Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.